Welcome to Hanging by a Thin Thread, a podcast by Shelley in Kansas City, that's me. And this is a place where we talk about all fibery and yarny things, such as knitting, crochet, spinning, weaving, sewing, and even occasionally dyeing. So I wanted to welcome you to episode 52. I've been doing this podcast now for 3 years. We started back on December 22nd of 2022. And Bob always helps me work on these videos. I could not do it without him. So thank you, Bob. But it's been a labor of love these past 3 years. And you can find us here about every 2 to 3, sometimes even 4 weeks. I try to put out a podcast whenever we have any projects to show or things to say that might be interesting and relevant, hopefully, to you. And I also have, the theme I've always held is love what you're making and wear what you make. Because my focus has tended to be on garments. But at any rate, whether you're making garments or whatever you're making, loving the process of doing it is really, really important to me, and I try to share the things that, especially the projects that I've really loved and that you might love to try as well. So welcome aboard. Grab your cup of tea or coffee, whatever your beverage of choice. Today, I do want to share a special thing that I was talking about last time as far as loose leaf teas go. This is yummy tea. I was trying to get away from bag teas, which I've always used in the past, largely for convenience because it's kind of messy for me to, strain out the loose leaf tea and all of that and just to deal with it. I always felt it was too much trouble. But honestly, lately I've been trying to avoid some plastics in my diet and avoid ingesting plastics. And sometimes the bag teas are sealed with some plastic. So I said last time I want to try some loose leaf tea, and I asked for any suggestions that any of you might have. I did uncover one that I'm really enjoying that's called Tiesta Tea. That's the brand. And I ordered from Amazon this sampler set of 8 different teas. This is a top seller with them, and I've enjoyed it a lot so far. I've had several different flavors. Because the bags are resealable and you have your loose leaf tea, there's probably enough in each one for my little teapot to do about 2 different usages. So since I have 8 teas in here, 8 different sampler teas, I've been able to use each one of these old packets. Lasts me 2 different little tiny pots. And by tiny pot, I mean 2 little cups, like this size. So it's been, about $19 for the 8 tea sampler is what I paid. And what I like about it, this one is Blackberry Bellini. This is what I'm drinking today. But on the side of each of the teas, it tells you what the focus of that tea will do for you. This one is slenderizing. I'm always up for that. And other ones are for your immunity system, improving your immunity. And there's a relaxer. There's all different kind of themes that you can try in this sampler box. So I'm really happy I found it, and I'm enjoying all the flavors I've tried so far. So I definitely think this is a winner for me. If you have any other suggestions, by all means, feel free to suggest away because I'm always open to trying new things. And there is a local loose leaf tea producer here in town that I'm going to try to connect with soon and try some of her teas. So I'm certainly open to other ideas, and I always love drinking coffee as well. But this is just my little nice find that I wanted to share with you today. Usually I try to wear some object, something I've made recently, and so today obviously I'm not. I'm just wearing a turtleneck. I love turtlenecks, and normally I love to throw my other knitted or crocheted shawls and sweaters over a turtleneck, but today I'm just wearing the turtleneck itself because I haven't really accomplished a lot lately. Even though I'm in this retirement or re-inspirement phase of my life, I've been taking a pretty easygoing approach and trying to just enjoy all my crafts. So I haven't been as driven to, finish things just to be finishing them. And so even though I have this beautiful Christmas shawl that I have cast on, the Golden Hour shawl by Andrea Mowry, and I'm making this for my half-sister, who I was hoping to finish it for Christmas. I even have little Christmas trees on the stoppers of my needles, hoping to motivate myself to get it done. But the pace I'm going is pretty slow, and so I don't know if I'm going to actually get it done in time or not. I want to do it right, and I want to block it properly before I send it to her. But the way it's going, I don't know if it's going to be done in time for Christmas. So I'm just trying to take a slow, easygoing approach and take my time. In fact, my friend Carolyn makes these bags for our knitting group every year for Christmas. And this year I picked the Sloth. This is such a darling little bag she made. It is lined inside. It has a zipper pocket. It's got this, I don't know if you can see this, but this really beautiful plaid lining. And she used all of her cloth scraps when she made the bags this year. It even has not only a drawstring, but a little handle. And it has a nice bottom, solid bottom that you can set things down. Anyway, I love it. And the Sloth I purposely picked because it fits the kind of attitude I want to have this year. From instead of viewing it as a negative, instead of viewing it as a lazy animal, I'm trying to remind myself that I need to slow down and enjoy all the days. That's part of my re-inspirement, is to be inspired by the little things in life. And so I've enjoyed knitting each stitch so far of the Golden Hour shawl. And I've also been working on my Advent socks, which I will hopefully have finished to show you next time. But again, I'm trying to not stress out over keeping up with it each day. I am knitting 2 socks at once, but I've stalled out a little bit here at the heel because I want to spend more time working on the Golden Hour shawl. So I'm trying to just take a more easygoing attitude toward all of my making. And, the fact is I'm doing these crafts because I enjoy them. And so I want to have that attitude of enjoyment each day. And so I'm trying not to stress out over, putting myself on a time clock. I'm off the time clock now. I'm officially off any time clock. And that has been such a pleasure to no longer have that pressure of working anymore. So even though I'm trying to continue to get things done, and I'm very much enjoying having my days being my own, I also want to take a more relaxed attitude and let go of the natural control freak and type A personality that I tend to have. So I'm going to have the Sloth as my little theme this year. And maybe when I work on things in this bag, it'll remind me to slow down and take it easy and enjoy those little things. And another thing I'm doing during my re-inspirement is to connect with people from my past, as well as people, having deeper conversations with people who are in my life, my relatives, my friends, and just having a more relaxed time to connect. And so one thing that's funny, I usually am the one who reaches out because I tend to be an extrovert, and a lot of my friends are not so much. So I am the one who usually reaches out. But what's interesting is a couple of weeks ago, someone reached out to me on Ravelry, and I recognized this little message she sent me, and a pop-up came in my Ravelry box with a lady who has a little picture of a squirrel, and I recognized her icon, her image, from a natural dyeing group that I'm in on Ravelry. The way I use Ravelry now is not usually too much to participate in the forums, but to mainly use it for a pattern database and also to catalog my own projects to kind of, so I always know what yarn I used and what I did on a project. And so that's the main way I use Ravelry. But when I got this little message, I looked at the fact, she was messaging me that because she was starting a new group on Ravelry on the forum, and it is called Dyeing Your Way. So if any of you wish to join this group, I know, it's a really dynamic, fun group. And what I like about it is she started it so that there could be any type of dyeing method that people wanted to do, including mixed media dyeing. So if you wanted to start off dyeing something with natural dyeing and then later over dye it with, Kool-Aid or acid dyes or whatever you want to do, Wilton's cake mix, they want to cover all the different dyeing mediums and methods and have it be a more relaxed group. So, people just exploring and having fun with color. So that was what she did. She invited me to the group, and since then, she and I have done a lot of corresponding back and forth privately as well as on the forum about this different dyeing methods and, talking in general just about why we're in dyeing, what we enjoy about it. And as I'm conversing with her back and forth, I realize her name is Jenny. She doesn't go by that on Ravelry, but her name is Jenny. So she and I went back and forth for a couple of messages, and then I realized that she had a little picture of a book that I have in my library. It's called Spinning Around, Spinning, Dyeing, and Knitting, Elizabeth Zimmerman's Classics by Janine Bakeridges. And so I realized this is in her profile, and so I wrote her back and said, hey, Jenny, are you the Janine Bakeridges of the Spinning Around book? And she confirmed, yeah, I am that Jenny. And I told her I've had this book since 2010. It's been in my library, and I started spinning in 2008. So I was using this book. I'd only been a new green spinner at the time when it came out. And what I loved about this book was it was divided up between 3 different sections. First, it has the spinning, I think is first, yeah. And it talks about fiber prep in here too. Spinning and fiber prep. Then it goes into natural dyeing and dye equipment and how you do it and all that. It's mainly focused on natural dyeing as opposed to acid, I'm pretty sure. Then at the last third, it talks about Elizabeth Zimmerman patterns and how she kind of reworked some of them and did her own take with her own natural spinning and dyeing. And so it has some things in it with that as well. And some, nice uses of the patterns with her own take on it. And one of them I got to show you, I really love. This is called, now I never remember this from Elizabeth Zimmerman's books, but it's called the EPAU LET jacket. I think it's pronounced epaulette. I looked it up and I thought it might, anyway, that's the pronunciation I found, epaulette. But this is her own take on that jacket. And this is on page, I don't know what page number it is. Don't see the page number. Well, perhaps there are no page numbers. But anyway, no, there it is. It's on the side. Page 112 is this epaulette jacket. I really like that. And it has an interesting construction, but she naturally dyed all of the yarns that are used in here. So there's a teal, a beautiful red, deep red, there's purple, and there's a rusty orange. Very beautiful. So I started talking to her about this, and I told her, many of my books, I'm trying to kind of declutter and get rid of a lot of my books and magazines and go to e-format, electronic format for most of my stuff. I don't want to have, too much clutter and stuff around. And so one of my friends has gotten rid of all of her magazines, period. And so I haven't gone to that extreme. I've kept some of my very favorite ones, but I've also given away a lot of my books to my Weaving Guild and just tried to de-stash a lot of that stuff. But this is one I kept because I felt it was so valuable and I loved it so much. And so I told her that I was just funny that I still had held on to that. And it caused me to take it out of my bookshelf and look at it again to kind of revisit some of the things that at the time were new to me in spinning particularly, and the natural dyeing section. Most of the projects at the back of the book, I admittedly am not that interested in doing, but I did love that epaulette jacket, I must say. So I might have to take a look at that. But for the most part, you know, the part that was most useful to me in that book were the first two parts. And it also reminded me, because she's really into natural dyeing and she started this group, I pulled out this dye sampler I did back in 2019 in it was my very first natural dyeing class I took at Fiber U in 2019. So it's been almost 6 years ago, 5.5 years ago. You can see that these colors are so vibrant. These are all natural dyed colors. And we did an afternoon where we dyed in several different dye pots, a whole variety of particularly these are ones that are readily available here in Missouri. But some people say that natural dyes are not very color fast, or that they may fade over time, and I'm sure that's true. I'm sure they do sometimes fade, although we use a mordant to try to keep the colors on as long as possible. But I just wanted to show you this sampler to remind myself as well as you that natural dyes can last a long time, and they're not as saturated and bright and, you know, whatever as acid dyes, but they're still just absolutely lovely. And the thing I love most about natural dyeing is that every color seems to go together with all the other colors. Another thing so this natural dyeing is something that I definitely want to pursue in 2026. I haven't really done as much of it in recent years. I did a lot of it during 2019 and 2020 during COVID, and I enjoyed doing it a lot, especially the summer of 2020. It got me outside, and I really enjoyed the results that I got. So I do want to do more natural dyeing. Now that my time is my own, I'm even trying to figure out a way that I could do some natural dyeing in the winter. Because usually, as I said, I do it outside on my hot plate on my deck. And it occurred to me, you know, maybe I could do some in winter. And it's funny that the serendipity that happens. The fact that Jenny reached out to me and started this group in the middle of winter, which is not typically, at least not in North America. Right now they're having summer in Australia and those kind of places on the other side of the equator. But here we're having winter. So it was funny to me too, the timing. Literally 2 days after she reached out to me and I started talking to her, I found the recent Spinoff magazine popped into my mailbox, and this is the Winter 2026 edition. And they have several, well, at least a couple of articles in here about natural dyeing. And it's on their cover, Flora and Fauna, Let Nature Inspire Your Next Spin. And it does have at least one, if not a couple of articles in here about natural dyeing, which is just phenomenal. I was so thrilled. There's one person in here who has created a tam, you know, this little colorful tam. And then I don't know that I would necessarily make that, but they have a small space natural dye experiments, and it's dealing with all kinds of different natural dyes. But what I love the most, oh my gosh, this growth pattern shawl is just beautiful. And I love the shape of it. I think it's wonderful. It's by Jennifer Miller Comstock. She spun the yarn and then naturally dyed. She made little rowags. And I just am in love with this shawl. I would really love to do that with my natural dyed yarns. And it really inspired me to want to get back and do more natural dyeing. I was just like, And the fact that it came right on the heels of me getting the message from Jenny made me feel like this is all one of those magical chain of events, that just happen in life if you're paying attention. And so I am just absolutely thrilled with how all this came about. And I wanted to share it with you. Are you open to these little messages from the universe that might come your way? And since this is the time of year at the holidays, we have cranberries. Aldi had these on sale for 99 cents each, okay? 99 cents a bag. I cannot resist the opportunity to not only make more cranberry sauce, because we really enjoyed that over the Thanksgiving. That was the thing that people raved about, my handmade cranberries. My mother-in-law, Sylvia, used to make these. That was a special thing she cooked every holiday. And I am loving making these, but I want to use this for dye, because I did that one time years ago, like 15 years ago. I was making cranberries during the holiday that year, and I decided to take some wool that I had, and I was new at dyeing then. I didn't hardly ever do any dyeing, but I happened to decide to dye some wool with one of the bags of cranberries, and it came out lovely. It was a really pretty pink color, and I actually incorporated it into into one of my projects, into a shawl I was doing. So I want to do this again, and I've been mortaring the yarn overnight. I'll tell you more about this once I finish the project. You can see how the dye turns out. I don't know if it's going to be in this episode or the next episode, but I will tell you how the cranberry dyeing turns out. And again, I just want to share the fact that being aware of all the little happenstance, these little weird things that happen to you, and people that contact you, and if you hear a book recommendation or a music recommendation or anything that comes your way like that, being aware of those types of things in your life, to me, that's part of the magic of this season. More than presents and more than, the hustle and bustle and hurry, is the slowing down and recognizing those little messages from the universe that you get, being open to hearing them, seeing them, being aware of them, and acting upon them. So I'm going to act upon my message by doing some cranberry dyeing today. Hi, I wanted you to see Ruby's Christmas sweater that I got her at Petco. This is not one I made, obviously. I'll let you see it a little bit closer. I don't even know for sure what it's supposed to be. It's got some little eyebrows up here and then this, but it's very cute and snuggly. It is so snuggly. So she really likes this. And another thing she's been liking a lot is her granny square coat that I made for her a few weeks ago that I showed you last time. She really loves both of those things. So anyway, we've been getting colder weather now. We're getting really close to the Christmas time. And so I wanted to, you're a real licker today. But anyway, so I wanted to show you her new little sweater. It's not one I made, but I love to get her little sweaters because she does have some permanently missing fur on her back. So she gets very, very cold at this time of year. But anyway, I wanted to show you her cute little sweater and let you know that I probably will be making her other sweaters in the future because she really loves this one. Let me find it here if I have it. Here's the sweater I made her and we talked about last time. And so this one she's been wearing a lot and really likes it. So I need to make her another one of those. But in the meanwhile, she has one now that we got at Petco. So yeah, hopefully that will keep her warm and snuggly till I can make her another one here in the future. And I'm wearing, today I'm wearing a poncho that I made, a Christmas poncho that I made several years ago with my weaving and sewing. And I'll put a picture up of me wearing it so that you can see the whole thing. I've got my little Christmas necklace and earrings on today. I had lunch with some friends that coworkers I used to work with, and we had a nice little pre-Christmas lunch. And so even though it was great seeing them again, I'm absolutely happy to be retired and in this re-inspirement phase of my life. So it was fun seeing them again, though. Now I want to report back on the natural dyeing that I did. One of them fell. Okay. First of all, these are the results. This is the alpaca. It came out a peachy kind of pink, very pretty. This is after rinsing and drying. The most dramatic result was from the superwash yarn. This is a Cascade 220 superwash. It came out this dusty rose color, which is really pretty. It's almost got a brown tint. And then this one is the Galway 100% merino wool. It came out, a nice medium pink. Now, I was happy with the results of these, but I will tell you one caveat I want to mention, because this came up in our discussion on the natural dye board that I'm on Ravelry. I had mentioned that a little bit ago. Dyeing Your Way. I had to find the name of it again. Dyeing Your Way. In that group, we were discussing the results I've had with the cranberry, and I wanted to mention that they brought up a very good point, and I brought it up before when I've discussed using berries for dye, particularly episode 30, if you ever care to go back to that from last summer, 18 months ago, when I did some dyeing with blueberries a year and a half ago. I did mention that that dye is a fugitive type of dye, meaning it can escape. And I'd always mordant with alum to try to keep it longer. But the fact is, if you dye on wool and mordant with alum or whatever it is you're mordanting with, you can get a little bit, for it to stay on the yarn a little bit longer than you might otherwise, but it is still considered a fugitive dye. So you definitely want to consider that when you're putting it into a project. If you're doing something that you've worked long and hard in, particularly a colorwork sweater or a Stephen West shawl, you might want to carefully consider using natural dye, particularly the fugitive dyes, like the berries or anything that I consider food, sunflowers, and berries and that type of thing can be fugitive. So think of those things. If it's flowers, if it's a food item, it can be fugitive, the 3 F's there. So not all plants are as long lasting as others in the natural dyes. So do keep that in mind. But on the other hand, I want to show you the yarn that we dyed 18 months ago. This is the blueberry yarn. One of them I used in another project of mine, in a weaving project. So that one has been used, but you can see that this one from 18 months ago has still held up pretty well. I originally got kind of a lilac color of purple, and that is still pretty much what I have now. I don't think it's faded a great deal. And so, I think that it really varies. I did with this one, if you remember, I used a mordant. And if you're in doubt and want to see me dyeing with the blueberries, you can go to episode 30 where I talked more about this. But I just want to mention that the caveat on all of this is that some of these natural dyes, particularly anything with berries or a food item, like in the future I'm intending on dyeing with onions, those also can be fugitive. So just, do your research before you invest in the project. And definitely if you are afraid of it being fugitive and you don't want to have it disappear or lighten, then you may want to do your research before including it in a project. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I want to bring up a book I just finished. In fact, last night I finished the last page. It's called The Frozen River by Ariel Lawhon, Lawhon. And this book is a historical fiction. However, and it's very interesting, it's set in the late 1700s, 1789, 1700s, like that, toward the end of the 1700s. And this story is based on the real journals and diaries of a midwife from that period of time. And so I found it very compelling and interesting. I don't know what part of the country it took place. I'm trying to see here. Kennedy River. I'm not sure exactly where this is. I guess I should look that up. I did get a sense of place in terms of the river, but I'm not exactly sure, again, where that is exactly. But this is based on a real story of a real midwife in the late 1700s. And there is, in fact, another book that was written more of as a biography on Martha Ballard, the name of the character in this book, the main character. If you want to read the true biography about her, you can go to The Midwife's Tale and read more. And I understand also a friend of mine, Kathy, that's in my book club group, we're reading this with our library book club. She mentioned to me that there's also a series somewhere now. I don't know what channel it's on, but they have now done a series based on this book. I don't know if it's based on this or The Midwife's Tale, but at any rate, I don't normally like books about midwives. That's just not a topic that would normally draw me. And at first, when I heard our group is going to be reading this book, I wasn't real excited because it's a long book. I mean, this is like a 400-page book, kind of long. And I thought at first, do I really want to invest my time during Christmas reading about a midwife? But I was drawn into the story immediately. I love the story. And so I would definitely recommend it. The author has written other historical fiction novels, and I'll be looking for other books by this author as well. So whether you're reading it on Audible or in book form or Kindle, whatever way you're reading it, I think you're going to thoroughly enjoy it if you're looking for an absorbing, wonderful historical read. Before I go, I want to mention thank you for joining us today. Next time, I hope to have some more finished objects to talk to you about and to show you. I did not get my half-sister's shawl finished in time, as I hoped, to mail it to her by Christmas. It's going to be delayed. So I think, I'll show it to you next time. I know I'll have it finished by next time. I think she'll understand getting it a little bit late. I just don't want to rush the process and have it be less than what it could be. I don't want to rush it. So I am going to take my time finishing it up. The mail delivery at this time of year is just crazy and frantic, so I don't want to risk it getting lost in the mail either. But I'm very happy with how it's turning out, and I will share it with you next time. Another thing I'm going to share with you next time are my plans for the type of projects. Some people call it a Make 9 list. I don't like to call it a Make 9 because I don't want to be limited by any certain number. But I do have some projects. I've been putting together a list of projects that really excite me for the new year. And so I'll be sharing that with you next year in January when I put out my next podcast in episode 53. The one thing I can tell you in general, what I hope to be doing more of is more natural dyeing. I really am excited by this new group I've joined. I'd like to do more sewing if possible. They may not all be garments, but I would at least like to do a little bit more sewing because I've done virtually none this year. And it's been a real, something I've missed. I want to get back to doing some sewing. I want to get back to doing a little bit of weaving. I don't think I'm going to do an extreme amount of weaving, but I want to do a little bit. And so I'll be returning to more of that. And also I'd like to do some hand sewing. So maybe some embroidery or those type of things where it's a slow type of sewing very much appeals to me. Since this year's theme is going to be re-inspirement, I don't want to doggedly pursue something just to be doing it or feeling obligated to do it. I want to approach my projects with joy and inspiration. So I'll be telling you next time more about what is inspiring me right now, what I want to pursue, and what I'll be moving toward in 2026. Until next time, once again, thanks for joining us. Remember, love what you're making and wear what you make. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, whatever you celebrate. Enjoy time with your family your creativity, and I look forward to sharing more with you in episode 53 next time. Till then, goodbye, everybody.